What is up everyone, I'm Gooshy, and in this video we're going to be going over the fastest way to grind legendaries and cursed gear in Ghost of Tsushima Legends. We'll be going over each activity you can do currently in Legends, and determining what the most efficient way is to grind these specific types of gear. So if you guys are interested, stay tuned. Alright, starting off with the best way to get legendaries. The first thing that you should be doing to get you a guaranteed legendary is all your weeklies. Under the challenge tab, all the activities, which include chapter 1 of the raid, chapter 2, chapter 3, and all the nightmares, which is story, survival, and rivals, will get you a guaranteed legendary the first time you complete it each week. If you hover over the activity, on the right hand side you'll see the weekly reward and the status if you completed it or not. So if you haven't done these already and you really want to go for those legendaries, definitely do this if you think it's worth your time. Okay, now that you've finished that, you'll just have to do other activities to hope that you get a drop at the reward screen at the end. But the question is, which one is most efficient? And so because legendaries are a random drop and are based around RNG, there's no one specific activity that will get you more legendaries, but what we can do is measure how many pieces of loot that we'll get for that activity compared to how much time it takes to do that activity, so we're efficient with our time and get the most rewards in as little time as possible. So let's go over each activity. Starting off with Nightmare Survival, we get around 7 pieces of gear for around 30 minutes of work. Next, we'll just normalize this so we can compare this to the other activities. So we'll just divide that up, and so survival should give us around 0.23 pieces of gear per minute. Next, moving on to chapter 1 of the raid. If we complete the raid and get all the Oni treasure chests, we'll get 10 pieces of gear for about 35 minutes of playtime, and that will net us around 0.28 pieces of gear per minute. Next, moving on to Nightmare's Story. If we complete all chapters 1, 2, and 3 and collect the Oni treasure, we should be getting 5 pieces of gear for about 15 minutes of playtime. Again, we'll divide that up, and this should give us 0.33 pieces of gear per minute. Next, onto Rivals, we get 5 pieces of gear for around 10 minutes of playtime. This gives us 0.5 pieces of gear per minute of playtime. Next, onto chapter 3, we get 5 pieces of gear for about 6 minutes of playtime. And this gets you a whopping 0.83 pieces of gear per minute. And so hands down, for getting legendaries, chapter 3 is the most efficient way when managing your time to get as many rewards as possible. And so knowing this, I wanted to show you guys a couple of tips and builds that I use to help get through chapter 3 as fast as possible. And so as most of you might know, you always want to be sending up people on the right and left platforms as soon as possible. This makes it so there's no downtime when going from each duel phase. Next, for some tips for dueling Iyo. And so with this new update, I'm pretty sure Sucker Punch nerfed the Masamune's Edge Wind Master, as Iyo doesn't get stun locked as you continually kick her. So now I actually think the best option is to use one of the new katanas, the Wrath of Sarugami. You do have to wait for that perfect parry moment, but when you do land it, during most times it does take out her guard completely. I actually think it's kind of bugged sometimes, where in some cases it doesn't take down her guard, but the fact that you get those free 3 hits after a perfect parry does make it a really good option for dueling. Now if you don't have this legendary yet and you're actually just farming for it, I have another option for you where you use the Stone Striker. Again, we'll have stats to boost our perfect parry window and our melee damage, and all you have to do is spam your triangle attack. Because the piercing strikes go through the enemy's guard and straight to the health, you really don't have to worry about breaking her guard. All you have to do is watch out for her attacks and try to perfect parry to get some damage in. Alright, so chapter 3 is the best and most efficient way to get legendaries, but this actually changes if you're going for cursed gear. And so there's actually a way to boost your chances for getting cursed gear under a certain circumstance. I wanted to give a shout out to Epic Plays, as this is where I found this at. And so if you have a cursed item equipped, and if you complete all your objectives within that activity, you'll get a plus 25% gear purification currency bonus for all players. And so what I'm pretty sure this means is that for each piece of gear that you get, there will be an increased chance that it'll be a cursed item. So for example, if there's a 5% chance that a single reward slot will get you a cursed item, this bumps it up all the way to a 30% chance. And so this actually changes things. If this is true, in this case, we want to get as many rewards as possible, so each one of those reward slots has that bonus. So in this case, chapter 1 of the raid, if you're getting all of the Oni treasure, will get you 10 pieces of gear. And granted, you do purify this piece of gear while doing chapter 1 of the raid. all 10 pieces of gear on this reward screen will have a boosted chance to be a cursed item. So the best way to get cursed items is by doing chapter 1 of the raid with the cursed item and purifying it to get that bonus. Again, I'm not 100% sure that this is exactly what it does, so if you think that I'm interpreting this wrong, please let me know in the comment section down below, and we'll try to make sense of it. And so with that, that's everything you guys need to know on the most efficient way to farm for those legendary and cursed items. If you guys found it helpful, please drop a like and consider subscribing, as this is the place to find all of your Ghost of Tsushima content. As always, thank you guys for watching. Hope to catch you in the next one, and GG.